Hello and welcome to Jolie Living. Today we're making my Italian great-grandma's cheese pie. Not to be confused with cheesecake. This is a savory cheese pie. We'll start by making the crust. You'll need 2.5 cups of all-purpose flour. My wife has a gluten sensitivity and she has found that using ancient grains, stone milled in smaller facilities like Hayden Flour Mills is agreeable with her. Our niece tried Hayden flour on our recommendation and didn't have the same results. But since then, her mom experimented and made a pie crust from half gluten-free flour and Hayden flour that ended up in a tasty pie crust and favorable results for my niece. Once we've sifted and measured out 2.5 cups of flour, put it in a bowl. We're going to add 1 teaspoon of salt and 3 tablespoons of oil, vegetable oil. In this case, we're using avocado oil. It's what we have around the house. The purpose of this is to coat the flour and prevent it from overmixing with the butter. This is a pastry and you want the butter to be separate from the flour so that you get the flakiness. The recipe I'm using is a kind of a combination between one given by my sister and some others I'm aware of. The unique thing is this adding the oil to aid in keeping the flour separate from the butter. So just mix this with a spoon till you have it evenly distributed. Next, we will add 1 cup of cubed, slightly softened butter. To prepare this, you want to dice up 1 cup of butter and put it back in the fridge. You can take the butter out of the fridge about 15 minutes before you're ready to fold it into the crust. A slightly softened butter works in faster and ensures a tender and flaky crust. And we're going to use a pastry cutter, one of my wife's grandmother's pastry cutter, until you have just a even size, about pea size particles. So it takes a little bit of time, a little bit of muscle. Push it in, twist a bit, and just till you get an even consistency. Okay, that took me about 5 minutes to mix by hand. You could have done it with a food processor if you prefer, in about, 2 or 3 seconds. But I felt like I wanted to work with my hands today and wanted a bit of a workout. So next thing we're going to do is add 1/4 cup of water. Then we add our 2 teaspoons of rice wine vinegar. The acidity of the vinegar contributes to a tender, flaky pastry because it shortens the gluten strand or breaks it down. All right, after mixing with a spoon for a little bit, then we will pour it out on the counter and mix with our hands. We're just kind of pressing to form a dough. You can see, look, it looked like really just a flour. Now it's pressing into a dough. And if we had a pastry or a dough scraper, you could use it to make folds in the dough. Instead, I have an ulu knife, or a half moon knife that I'm using that kind of helps. I'll have to sharpen it after this. Alright, once we've got that mixed into a nice dough, we're going to cut it in half and shape each half into discs and put them in some plastic wrap, set them in the refrigerator for at least an hour to rest. But you can see, oh, look at that. And you can see the layers right there. All right, I had a little bit of difficulty when I was adding the rice vinegar. And so I went ahead and rolled out the dough and put it in the pan. And we're not worried about a fancy edge yet because we are going to put a top on this. But right now we're going to make the filling. The tasty part I've been waiting for. All you need is a half a pound of mozzarella or Monterey Jack and a half a pound of cheddar or Colby, something like that. And I know my family, we all kind of vary it to our liking. In place of the mozzarella, I did provolone or provolone, depending on where you're from, and a sharp cheddar cheese. Rather than just a plain cheddar or Colby. You can all make it. Me and my family, we like a little bit of flavor in our cheese, so that's where we're heading today. You just cube it up. You end up with 1 pound of cheese. You have a half a cup of milk and 2 eggs. I'm going to go ahead and whisk up the 2 eggs in the milk, and we just combine these ingredients together and put them in the pie pan. All right. Pour that over the cheese. And I think I mentioned earlier, this is my great-grandma Royal's recipe, but I only had it prepared by my grandpa, by her son. I had heard there had been oftentimes meat added to it, like hunks of salami or ham, something like that, but Grandpa always made it just with cheese and the egg and the milk. But it's something I had experienced at Grandpa's house a lot of times on special holidays. Always enjoyed it. Everybody likes this. If you like quiche, you will probably like this. I like quiche, but to me, this is the ultimate quiche. It's not light and fluffy. It's heavy and cheesy. I'm gonna put in a little bit of ground pepper. You just kind of flavor it to your liking. Get it stirred up just a little bit. Really doesn't take much. Then we'll put it in the pan. Spread it out a bit. Hopefully you can see that all right. Try to get it just even height. think I'll put just a little bit more of the fresh parsley. All right, now we're ready for the top crust. And any of these crusts, once you have them done, you can put them back in the refrigerator, and so they'll be ready whenever you're ready. This one's fresh out of the fridge. And all we're going to do now is pinch it together, trim it, and then I think I'll use a fork all the way around. So this will take a bit of time. I'll probably be right back with you once I've pinched it together. Fun part is, this is my great-grandma's recipe. I used my wife's grandmother's rolling pin, one of her grandmother's pastry cutter. So it just feels like there's tie to family history when you make something like this. And it's something that I experienced a lot as a kid growing up and always loved. And you can make the edge of a crust quite fancy. We're going for something pretty basic here. Again, we're trying to show that anybody can do this. That's the point of anything I make. Now that I've trimmed the excess, I'm going to go around the edge and just do the fork print, kind of more like on a pot pie. Once you get the edge of the crust how you'd like it, then you put it in the oven for 15 minutes at 425 degrees. After that, you reduce the temperature to 350 and let it go for another 35 minutes. At the end of that, you'll have a delicious pie to share with family and friends. One thing I forgot to mention, before you put the pie in the oven, cut a couple of slits in the top crust so that it can breathe. All right, the pie is out of the oven and we're cutting our test piece. Looks pretty good. A little bit of a blowout over there. You know, that's why you cut the slits. That was just the low point. And some of the liquid drained. You want to use a sharp knife, be sure you get it cut. I'll do a little bit of, looks like it's separate there. All right, and a great-grandma's pie recipe is worthy of a grandmother's plate. These are my wife's grandmother's plate. Look at that side. There you got a lot of the cheddar. Look at that. That's no quiche. All right, now I'm going to take my first bite. That tastes like my childhood. It turned out the way I remember. The crust is really flaky. It's super cheesy. Not cheesy, goofy. It's cheesy tasty. I hope you try this sometime. Do it for yourself. You may not have the same memories associated with it as I do, but maybe it'll be a new tradition and you can carry it on with your family. That's it for now. Thank you for watching Jolie Living. I'm Rick, signing off. Please subscribe if you haven't already, like, and hit that notification bell.